what's going on with U.S. Steel. A lot of news that's been going on in the past month and a half, right? U.S. Steel seems poised to be acquired, right? The latest being this Cleveland Cliffs. That's like a $7.3 billion cash and stock offer. And I had to look this up, but U.S. Steel has an annual raw steel making capacity of 22.4 million tons. And I mean, this isn't like a little acquisition we're talking about too, right? U.S. Steel has pretty much been a staple in U.S. manufacturing for years. So, I mean, what we talked about is like, what does this mean for the larger context, whether it happens or not happen, right? And we saw some of this go on in the aluminum space with Apollo and Arconic. So, Brian, why don't you kick us off? What does that mean right now? What's going on?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Great way to intro that. This is one of the biggest questions surrounding the carbon steel world right now. What's going to happen with U.S. Steel? So, and the newest development is, as of Tuesday, U.S. Steel issued a letter to all of its shareholders and to the public saying that they have entered into several non-disclosure agreements with several entities to share due diligence information. Normally, this is not something that people publicly announce. So I think this is the U.S. Steel letting the market know that they're continuing down this road and they're going to do whatever's best for their shareholders and their organization. So the current only publicly known offer that we know of is that Cliffs offer that you mentioned, which is valued at about $35 a share. So, yeah, that's the big question hanging over. I mean, it would be a huge acquisition, and one that continues a trend of consolidation of the industry over the past decade, from where we had maybe a dozen suppliers to really maybe 4 or 5 large suppliers that have really kind of taken over the North American space. Cliffs is the largest steel producer in North America, having acquired most of the assets of what was ArcelorMittal and AK Steel. So they're number 1, Nucor's number 2, and U.S. Steel is number 3. So this would be quite a monumental acquisition if this goes through. And yeah, we're all really kind of watching this space to see what happens next.
So Brian, I apologize, as you talk about the monumental nature of it, I have to ask the question about potential antitrust or monopoly issues. Can you speak to what that ultimate company would look like if Cliffs were to acquire successfully U.S. Steel in terms of iron ore assets and maybe automotive steel production?
Yeah, they would become the largest automotive supplier in North America. They would own most of the mining operations in North America. I don't know the exact raw tonnage that they would control, but it would be significant. So I think, yeah, this is going to get a lot of scrutiny, both on the street and with government regulators. But yeah, it would be a significant amount of automotive supply with one mill group.
When the average metal buyer kind of follows this news, well, how does it really affect them? We've talked to Nick in past Cup of Joe's, right? With all this consolidation, what does it do for lead time, supply, things like that? I mean, this seems like a pretty significant, like I mentioned, over 22 million tons. I mean, how does it ultimately impact the end user, the metal buyer, if you will?
I think that it will impact the average metal buyer, not as much in the beginning as we might think. It's going to make this drastic, rock in the pond ripple wave effect. I think lead times will have to kind of stay where they are now, and I just don't know if we announce in a month that U.S. Steel has been acquired by Cliffs, I don't know that that's going to immediately push lead times out, or if it's going to drastically reduce them. I think it's going to take a while for that to get absorbed into the marketplace. I think the bigger question that's overhanging the market right now is, how will the UAW negotiations with the big three affect something like this sale? Because as of September 14th, the current labor agreement runs out. And overall, the sentiment among the market is that we will see a strike. We don't know the magnitude. We don't know if it'll be all three. It could be just one. People think it could be a short strike, but what short means is kind of being, debated right now. But overall sentiment is that there will be a strike at least one of the production facilities.
And that would really impact, like you said, because the Cliffs, you said, would be a big supplier, automotive, US Steel, right? Yep.
Yeah, Cliffs and US Steel are both the largest suppliers to automotive in North America. If one of those groups decides to strike at any one of those plants, Ford, GM, or Stellantis, it could lead to some volatility in the market. The last time we saw this was 2019, and we saw some volatility in prices. They jumbled around for a little bit before the deal was struck and the plants were restarted and people came back to work. But yeah, we saw some dips and some increases